Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Kody Clark, welcome to ATV-TALK. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Hey, I got to read a little bit of that information. In our pre-conversation, I told you I don't usually get that much information, but
Right.
you've been around a long time, and I know that we focus mainly on ATVs on ATV Talk. We do some UTV stuff. I'll do
Mhm.
race car guys. I do some motorcycle people, but your basic background comes from the motorcycle side of the industry.
Yeah. I'm 32 now. I've been racing bikes since I was 4. So you can imagine I still do. I mean, I raced just what's today? I raced Saturday. So I mean, I'm still racing bikes to this day.
And being 32, racing that long, doing some of the stuff you do, how's your body holding up? I mean, I'm jumping way off topic, but it's a concern at 32.
You'd actually be really surprised. I have a really small list of injuries. In fact, the worst one I've ever had is a dislocated shoulder. Um, and that was the first time I actually ever had to go under so they could put it back in. Other than that, it's like small hairline fractures. I mean, I'm sure in some other sports you would think, wow, a bone break's a pretty big deal, but I've never really had to have surgery, if you will. But a lot of that I think just comes from having fun, and I've got to where I am today just on seat time, either riding a pit bike or, like back when I was in school, get off elementary school, ride till dark. Wake up early in the morning. I would ride until I would have to be dropped off at school. Um, that's all I wanted to do, and still to this day, it's all I want to do.
How does that work in the home life?
Uh, I mean, my wife races and rides too, and we actually just had our first son, and he gets as soon as a dirt bike turns on, he falls asleep. So I have to imagine he's got the bug now too. Um, so I really couldn't complain.
That's pretty awesome that your wife's into it as much as she is, and then your boy's going to jump right in. I hope. We need more people riding, and that's all that matters. Um,
Yeah,
let's talk a little bit about your motorcycle career before we get into the ATV stuff, if you don't mind.
sure.
You've been back to Loretta Lynn's at the amateur level,
Yeah.
and you've been back to Loretta Lynn's on an ATV. Tell us a little bit about the motorcycle, uh, what it's like to be there on a motorcycle at Loretta's.
So I went in 2008 and 2009. And the reason why I say those years specifically, and I always try and make sure I note those years, is I went in 2008 in 450 junior. And I had never been, my dad got me into riding, and he was always just keep it fun, keep it light. If you're doing good, we'll keep traveling and see where it goes. So '08 450 junior, had no experience of Loretta's before. We just got told the basic stuff. It's hot, train like it's hot. And from Washington State, like, it's pretty rare we get over 90 degrees in the summer, at least consistently enough to where you would want to train for Loretta's. So, I mean, I remember being 15 years old training for that, and we would go down to my track, and I would be in all of my ski gear. So we'd be base layer pants, base layer shirt, um, jeans. We ordered dirt bike pants that were a size bigger so we could fit them over the jeans, a dirt bike jersey over the base layer, and then ski pants and a ski coat. And I would go do 2 30-minute motos a day, 3 days a week down at our track. Get to Loretta's, it still wasn't enough. and going there and having fun, it was like, okay, I'm 15 years old. This is great. We rented a golf cart, of course, like everyone does. After motos, I'd go have a Coca-Cola after my motos. I didn't know. In '09, I qualified for Open Pro Sport. So we had jumped from 450 junior to one of the more premier classes of the event. And uh, my dad was like, hey, maybe this year we should take it a little more seriously. So when we went back, we went 3 weeks early and trained at a bunch of tracks over there. to try and get as heat acclimated as we could. And I did pretty good in '08. I got 8th overall, crashing every single moto in the first turn. So that was I made that way harder for myself. And then the next year, I was still technically intermediate here at the time. The next year, I think I got like 19th or 20th or something overall. But going now and racing an ATV there, I think it was 23. It was that really bad mud year. And I was like, if I'm going to start racing quads, I have that racer mentality still. It'll never go away. Like, I want to go race somewhere at my first national that I've been before, to take my wife over there so she can experience it. And I was like, I have to do Loretta's. I have to go to Loretta's. If I'm going to do one ATV national, like right now, it's got to be Loretta's. I know it's everyone else's final one. It'll be my first one. And I'm 2,500 plus miles away from Loretta's. And I mean, gas at that time diesel was like $5 plus a gallon over here. And so it was like, okay, I'm going to give my wife the full Loretta's experience. We loaded up the very same quad I have in the back of my truck right now, no toy hauler, put all of our stuff in the back seat. And I was like, we're driving over there in my truck, and that's it. Like, we're going to try and do this as easily as possible. I reached out to like several teams. I was like, hey, just put me in the corner. Like, I need somewhere to go once we're there, so that I'm not like basing out of a tent, basically. And Tim at TDR was like, yeah, we'll just hang out, whatever you need. I don't think he honestly thought I was going to show up. So no, it was cool. It was really fun to be able to go over and be able to experience that on a bike, being younger, both at a fun level and a more professional level, and then to be able to go back and relive it on a quad. I still laugh about it, and just if I'm bummed Loretta's wasn't on the schedule this year, because I really wanted to be the first rider, to my knowledge, in AMA history to qualify for Loretta's on a bike and then stay and qualify for Loretta's on the quad the next weekend, but it's not on the schedule.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool to do that. What did your wife think?
Uh, she says she had a blast once we were there. I've got friends in Bentonville, Arkansas, so we stopped there for a date, which kind of broke up the drive. But she said never again will she drive back east. She will fly in and fly out. Otherwise, it was an absolute blast for her and myself as well.
Well, beings that, people like us have traveled, and we understand that, you got to get there. So the drive is the drive. You're not
Mm-hmm.
stopping and looking at this. You're not stopping it. It's a mission. You're just behind the wheel, as many hours you can push out in a day and get
Yeah.
where you need to be. And
It, yeah, I remember being a kid and I was that way. Like, Dad, we're gonna leave the house and I'm gonna wake up and we're gonna be in Tennessee, no stops. I don't even want to stop for gas, right? And my dad always, let's go to Mount Rushmore, let's stop at Sturgis, whatever. I never wanted to stop. And now that I'm older, I wanted to stop and check out those places. And my wife was the one that's like, we need to get to the track. I don't want to be in the truck anymore. We're not stopping for anything. So we didn't stop. I mean, I tried to go to Mount Rushmore, and we drove right past it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a don't stop until I get there. My goal is to get there, and then when it's time to go home, and my goal is to get home.
Yeah. It was pretty wild. Like going over there, and I ran into Kody Jensen, and he's like, "Oh my God, you actually made it!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was brutal, but God, it took us. I think we left, if I remember right, we left on a Saturday morning at 2 a.m. and rolled into Waverly uh, Thursday afternoon with like a half a day stop in Bentonville, and then on the way back, we left Waverly at 2 in the morning the day after the race and didn't get home till uh, we pretty much straight drove it. I think we didn't get home till Wednesday afternoon of straight driving over 1,000 miles every day.
That's just brutal.
Yeah, it. I would do it every single weekend if I had to, all over again. I mean, I'm a racer at heart. It doesn't matter if it's a bike, quad, mountain bike, shopping cart. If
Yeah, let's
someone's
just go
gonna
race.
race me, I'll race it.
Yeah, let's just go race. I
Mhm.
totally get it. Do you have any of the issues most of the guys don't, but do you have any of the issues that some of the cross-train guys or crossover guys do where you get on the bike and then you get on a quad where did you have any issues with that?
Um, so when I started getting into quads, my biggest thing was the thumb throttle. I couldn't figure it out. I tried it. I can say I tried it. I went down to a race in Oregon, never even raced one before. I was like, okay, sign up for, I think it was production B, and I ended up winning like 7 out of 8 races. And I thought, oh, this is a blast. Like being able to ride a motocross track that I've ridden 1,000 times on a different vehicle, so it was new again, was really cool. But by the end of that Sunday, I was getting thumb pump, which I had never had in my life before. Wrist pump or arm pump, sure, but I couldn't move the throttle. And I ended up getting past, and I was so bummed. And the next race I did, I had went to twist throttle, so now we're way more in my element. And it was at Washougal, which is 3 hours or so south from my house, and I've done a ton of laps there. Um, so the twist throttle was the game changer for me. I actually went from and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this because I'm so new to it, but the Uramazi thumb throttles.
Hmm.
I actually traded my buddy one of those for a $40 twist throttle. I was like, this is way better for you, and what you have is way better for me. Let's trade. And he was all about it. So on paper, that was a horrible idea, but man, it sure worked better for me.
I've been doing this for a lot of years and I just hate to ride thumb throttles. Just
Yeah.
despise it. We grew up with twist throttles, back in the old rigid three-wheeler days where you were putting motorcycle throttles and making cables yourself.
Hmm.
I mean that's how long I've been doing it, where you just took the throttle off of a motorcycle and adapted it to your three-wheeler, you know.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, I mean, even I raced a three wheeler for the first every actually let me rephrase that. I rode a three wheeler at the first time I raced a three wheeler at the same time. And it had a thumb throttle on it, and only 3 laps at Washougal, my arm was shot. I just, I mean, that poor little thing. I'm a big guy. That poor little thing. I'm surprised it didn't blow up. But yeah, I thumb throttles. I will pick a. It doesn't. It could be $1 million thumb throttle setup. I will do a cheap Motion Pro twist throttle at the least every time.
What kind of machine are you riding now?
I've got two YFZ 450Rs, and I actually started on LTRs.
So you've been dealing with no resistance really in your thumb throttle style machines. That little flapper valve's nothing.
Right.
We need to put you on a Banshee with a thumb throttle with 35 PWKs on there, and then you
I've
go, oh my God.
I have been trying to track down a Banshee for years, only with the goal of I wanted to hit the Washougal triple on it. Um, but they are very, very scarce to find up here. And what people do have them, they are so far sand made that it wouldn't even be worth my time. Like there was actually one that showed up um, down in town one day, and I showed up there to ride. And I mean, the thing was just, I don't even know how it started. I don't know who left it there, but I saw it sitting off behind this RV. I said, oh man, I gotta go throw a leg over this thing. And I like 2 kicks, it fired up. And I mean, I swear the rear axle was just gonna fall out of the thing. The carry bearing was gone. I swear, looking at the plastics, they were just gonna fall off. I mean, this thing, it looked like it should have been scrapped. And I had the funnest 15 minutes on it before I realized it wasn't mine. um, and yeah, someday I'll find one. Someday I'll find one. I want one for sure.
You do realize one of the greatest ATV racers of all time comes from your state.
Uh, yes, I'm spacing on the name, but yeah. There's actually I was really bummed. There was a moto race I was at not too long ago, but Corey Ellis came up and raced at a track over on the east side of the state, which was I really wanted to be there for that.
Yeah, the guy's name's Doug Eichner.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sure everyone's like, wow, this guy is really really new to the sport. But yeah, there's been a few guys that have kind of came out of this. Not so much anymore. I've found doing as much research as I can, the West Coast in general, kind of between Washington and California. There's definitely fast guys. especially from the work side. The Sanfords live in Tacoma, which isn't too far from my house. Um, but there's not a whole lot of like, I mean, in comparison to the East Coast and Ohio and everything, there's not a lot of fast guys coming out of here anymore in the last, you know, 5, 10 years.
There's not as much racing on the western portion of the country for motorcycles and ATVs,
Yeah.
and the desire for people to do it has dropped. I'm not exactly sure if it's population based or I don't really know, or people just aren't into it, or those people have moved. Are you looking for the best suspension technology for your sport ATV? Look no further than Elka Suspension, the industry leader in sport ATV suspension technology. With championship wins in prestigious events such as the Dakar Rally, Score, Best in the Desert, ATV MX, Cross Country, and Works, Elka Suspension has established itself as the go-to choice for athletes and enthusiasts alike. But they don't just stop at ATVs. They're constantly expanding into new markets, including UTVs, trucks, SUVs, pit bikes, snowmobiles, and more. Their commitment to innovation and quality means they're always looking to improve and adapt so you can enjoy a smooth ride wherever you go. Want to learn more about what Elka Suspension can do for you? Visit their website at elkasuspension.com or give them a call at 450-655-4855. They will always be happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect suspension solution for your needs. Across the country so that they're closer to it. I'm just not sure.
I mean, I have my own theories on that. Another reason why I went to Loretta's was to go race with newer, faster people. My theory on that is um, the quad world. I mean, especially if you look at the pro ranks right now, your Hetricks and Wienans and whatnot. The pros keep people interested, right? But they don't necessarily bring in the new person, right? Unless they're like, oh, there's this ATV thing going on somewhat close to my house. Let's go check it out. And then they'd be hooked. My theory, as cliche as it sounds, to really bring in new people, ATV needs to go back to Monster Jam. And the reason why that is you're putting ATVs in front of families, and they know they can't just go out and buy a monster truck, but they can go out and buy a quad. And then where that goes from there for their kids is whatever. But you're putting quad racing, although it's not realistic quad racing, you're still putting quad competition in front of hundreds of thousands of kids on any given weekend. Um, that's kind of that would bring in the new people, and then they get involved with it, or they go out to a local or whatever. Or their kids got a KFX 50 or something like that. The kid gets involved. He sees YouTube clips, and the next thing you know, he sees Hetrick or Weenan or whomever just going absolutely crazy on motocross track, and now the kid's hooked, right? But it's that there's this weird kind of disconnect, I think, right now, and I think me being new to it as well, maybe it's the outside perspective, but I think there's that one missing link somewhere in there, and I mean, it's just the obvious of putting ATV racing in front of thousands of people that you wouldn't expect to see ATV racing.
Yeah, because back in the 80s, you could go to Mickey Thompson. The series had ATVs in it, and that series would sell out the stadiums all across the Western United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they were televised, so the people in Europe were getting to see it on ESPN. We're suffering from promotion, in my opinion,
Yeah,
where the promoters don't promote. Most of the tracks don't want to promote. They just want the dollars from the racers
yeah.
coming through the gate. And they forgot that they could get a whole bunch of spectators if they would do the promotions.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about a second ago with Loretta's. I mean, I've been there for a bike, and you can imagine that every single promoter that at the very least isn't there wants to be there. And the reason why they aren't there is because they could not afford the space because a bigger promoter bought the spot, right? When I went to Loretta's on the quads, um, they had a couple of t-shirt vendors, but I was really shocked again with my mindset from the bike side. I was really shocked. It was like I saw the Elka trailer and that was cool, but I didn't see them like it wasn't set up. It was just kind of there for, the trailer was set up, or the trailer was parked. It wasn't even awning or anything. Um, and obviously you had, TDR, and Tim was out. Tim and the boys were out busting out quads and helping people, but there wasn't like, you would think ATV National, you would think, okay, like Elka's going to have a full on setup, awnings out, whatever. Fox, full on setup, awnings out, whatever. Maxis, full on, you would think all these companies that are still involved with ATV racing. Yamaha, I don't think I remember seeing a single Yamaha banner, which was wild to me considering they essentially own 90% of the market. Um, it was pretty wild. I almost felt like, okay, is the event, being new to it, like, is the event starting? I know we're racing right now, but where's the firework? Where's the pop, if you will, to Vendor Row? Um, it was a trip.
It's not. They want too much money for the vendors to be there,
Mm-hmm.
so they're trying to hit a home run off of vendors, thinking the vendors are getting rich by being there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not,
Right.
because they're still traveling. They still have to carry everything. They're selling product. I hope that the vendors that are there are selling enough to justify to be there.
Yep.
Um, a lot of this is going to sound bad for the ATV people, but there's a lot of fickle ATV people that won't buy from, you know, vendor A. They only want to buy from this guy or that guy, and they won't
Yep.
go buy the parts, and they won't
Yep.
support the people in the industry. We used to travel to all the West Coast. Well, we did the East Coast stuff, then we moved to the West Coast because my brother and I got older, and we just couldn't afford the expense to go back east anymore.
Yep. I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, I it's very, if you're running you're running an FMF or you're running a DASA. If you're not running an FMF or you're not running a DASA, what are you doing? I run Yoshimiras on my quad just because my track, it's 72 acres we have, but it's in the middle of a valley, so it echoes really bad. And I would love to run DASA, but I just got to figure out the sound issue. And because I run Yoshimiras, it's like, oh, okay, well, you're second tier, almost. You know what I mean? Like, you're not running a DASA. That's ballsy. Um, and you,
We could put that up to a vote all we want. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not a fan. I think they're obnoxious, you know. But some people say that about my exhaust too. So
Oh man, yeah, I've got friends that run monster exhausts and Empires, and I'll line up next to them on the gate or whatever, and I'm just like, I can't even hear if my quad's on. Better yet, I think my eardrums are about to blow out. I'm sure they make more power than my Yoshi, but I mean, at what cost? Like, especially indoor. Oh my God, yeah. There's one guy that shows up with a monster exhaust inside, and uh, yeah, it hurts. It almost hurts being on the gate with him.
how many indoor quad racers do you guys get?
So it varies. We have like, I mean, on a good quad cross outdoor weekend, we have like 250 to 300, and that also includes side by sides and trikes. But indoors, there's only like, we're lucky to get like 11 or 12 guys to show up. The key guys, I got into it. My buddy Noah and Zane, and Keith, they show up to like almost every one, and it's an absolute blast. But you can only fit 11 bikes on the gate, so you can imagine like the sixth quad on the gate is sticking off to one side. When we go down to Redmond, Oregon, however, for finals here in early February, um, sometimes we'll get three heats, so you'll get like 20 or 30 quads to show up. Now, depending on skill level, is neither here nor there. Um, you definitely got a difference in skill level, but you're consistently a full gate of five or six, which uh, definitely makes some drama when you're dealing with the fact that the arena is only 120 feet long by, I think maybe, I mean, it's a bull riding arena, so you can imagine it's pretty tight.
Right.
Yeah, it's very tight. And it gets pretty wild. I know when Cody Sanford shows up, him and I have had some absolute battles. I mean, you can imagine going through motocross whoops designed for a bike. Him and I have a photo, and we are side by side going through whoops, and you can see that for as close as our quads are, there is absolutely no more room on the outside of those quads. Otherwise, either one of us would be going off the track. It is absolutely wild.
Man. But
Mm-hmm.
at least somebody's out there having a good time doing it. What do the promoters do to promote the races?
Uh, well, up here, so our quad race up here for indoors actually ran through a promotion called WHR Motorsports, and their bike really primarily they have it's kind of one of those where they have a it's a bike series. They get 500 bikes to show up to that every single round, which through December there was 3 weekends in a row. And then again, they just kind of have a quad class. So for example, like I'm leading the points right now in the ATV Open class, and also the 25 plus bike class. So I'll go take my bike and race those two. And actually, at the last round, it was a bummer. I was back to back motos, so I had to go out and race the quad. And then my buddies were packing my gate for my bike while I was out on the quad. So I had to get the checkered flag and go straight to the gate, parked on the side of the gate, and then went out and actually ended up winning my 25 plus too. So he doesn't really need to promote up here. It's the only thing going on during the winter, because where else are you going to ride? Everywhere is complete mud fest. If you want to go ride in the mud, great. There's no other racing going on, so why not go ride indoor? So for him, he doesn't have to work that hard. Um,
But what about the people that don't know about it?
Up here, pretty much every motocrosser knows about it. I've made posts to like the Quad Cross Connected page, and we have had some outdoor guys come in and indoor before, but it's so far out of their bubble. The quad racing community up here is very centralized around Quad Cross Northwest, which is great, but you're only racing like 8 times a year. And a lot of motocross tracks up here don't really allow quads. I'm very privileged to have the bike background to be able to kind of ask and kind of get in when I can. So I ride quite a bit, but a lot of these guys, I'm like, hey, come out and try it. You're gonna hate it because it's not washougal, it's a shoebox, but come try it. And my buddy Keith, for example, he came out and tried it for the first time last season, hated it all season. He hated it because the difference of outdoor to indoor, right? And I ran into him. He lives over on the east side of the state now. I ran into him at the last round, and he's like, I couldn't miss this. It's not the funnest thing I've ever done, but for whatever reason, it's just that difference, right? And now you're racing through the winter so that when you do go to the outdoor gate in April, round one, you've been racing essentially from November all the way through February. You only have 3-4 weeks off before you're back on the gate for outdoors. That's the allure of it for me, at least. Um, but again, I make posts every once in a while, like, hey, it's going on. It's very well known about. It's just so left field, I think, for people to kind of want to bother. But the people that like it really like it.
Yeah, you run into some of the problems with like off-road with work
Mm-hmm.
style stuff. Some of the people just don't want to ride for that long or go through that rough terrain. They want to go
Mm-hmm.
ride that motocross sprint and be done.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not me. Like I said, I'll do a 3 minute indoor race, and I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be happy after 2 hours, but I'd gladly go sign up for an off road race tomorrow. Um, I did a bunch of that growing up on the bikes. I haven't done one on the quad yet, but I would gladly go do it. Put me behind a gate. Don't matter what it is.
Doesn't matter what it is, you're gonna ride it and have fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome that you have that enthusiasm and you're still able to try to promote, hey guys, come and do this, come and ride with us. One of the problems that you run into in the ATV world is lack of follow through.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh.
They complain there's no track,
Yeah.
and then
Uh-huh.
they get a track and they get a ride day, and then nobody shows up.
I have had to quite literally say, "Hey, I have got the okay to come ride here. Um, show up." Like I'm gonna go down to a track called what is now Tootle MX Park. Back then it was Riverdale Raceways, and it was like, "Hey, I've got the okay from the motor. We're good. Quads are not allowed on weekends. They are allowed there Monday through Friday, but I mean, most people work, right? So it makes it hard for people. But it's like, hey, I got the okay on a Saturday. So if I show up or 50 of us show up, show up. And I think I had, as you said, I had like people, that's insane. I'll be there, whatever. I think 5 people showed up, which was fine with me. I was going regardless. It's not like it cost me anything to get the okay. It was great. More people there, the better. But yeah, it's you have hit it on the head. Which again, I don't know if that goes back to lack of knowledge that racing is going on. I'm very public that I race year round and I'm able to do it on a quad, especially up here in Washington State. But yeah, I don't know if it's I can't read people's minds. I mean, they know what's going on. I'm very public about it, but I'll do it. I'll do it.
When you go to ride for the weekend, do you take both the bike and the quad?
Yeah, normally, unless like, I mean, obviously, if it's a quad specific weekend like quad cross, well, I can't even say that. There's a race we do over at Horn Rapids MX Park, and they have a bunch of off road trails. So I'll take the bike and go play on the bike as well on another side track or the off road trails. But typically, yeah, if it's quad only quads. But if I can, yeah, doing double duty is what I call it. Being able to race the bike and the quad on the same day. It's it's I do as much as I can. It's a blast.
So, like on a practice day, you do the same thing where you
Uh-huh.
take machines?
Yep. So actually not too long ago I was up kind of more by the Canadian border. Um, Same deal. It was a bike day, bike only day. I know the guy that owns the property. I was like, "Hey, do you care if I bring the car? I know it's a bike day, whatever." He's not super quad knowledgeable and thinks I would imagine he thinks like a typical dirt bike promoter as to where, "Oh my God, there's someone on a quad out there. It's going to kill everybody." Um,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Hey, do you care if I bring the quad out? I'm coming up regardless. Just give me enough time at the end of the day. I don't care if it's after everybody leaves. Just give me enough time to do my 220s, my 220-minute motos. That's all I need." And yeah, otherwise it's, I try to as much as I can. It can get frustrating.
I bet. I bet it's most of the motorcycle people don't understand it. But if you talk to a convert from motorcycles to ATVs, they have the utmost respect for the ATV riders after they transition. Dustin,
Uh-huh.
and Bo Barron, these guys are, Gary Denton was a convert. Doug Eichner was a convert. These guys are all converts from motorcycles to ATVs, and they know how hard it is to go from riding a two-wheeler, which is basically easier to ride than a quad in so many.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to make it a point to say when we were doing the podcast, I was going to make it a point to say, I come from the dirt bike world. I have definitely done my fair share of trashing quads, especially growing up. Like verbally, I'm sure I did it, but I am also that person that, if given the opportunity, I will do it. Right. So, like when I got into quad riding, I remember I was sitting on the gate at Arena Cross right up the street, and I was like, oh, man, there's one quad out there. Like I was up next waiting for my practice. I was doing the pro moto practice. Like, there's one quad out there. Like, come on. And I kind of started getting impatient. Turns out I was talking to the kid's dad and had no idea. and and Anthony is his name. He comes up after practice. He goes, "Well, I got a spare quad. I'll bring it tomorrow if you think you want to try it." Again, put me behind the bars. I'll do it if you will. And he brought it. And man, I've been hooked ever since. I have so much fun riding them quads. I have so much fun riding quads, and it is crazy because I can be on the same track on the same day, and I have fun riding both. But man, there's something different about coming into a corner and not having to worry about like falling over, so you can just throw the thing sideways. Um, it, it's kind of like for me, what I find the fun in like I find a lot of fun in messing with my moto buddies, that's for sure, on a quad. But being able to like, again, I didn't have to jam my foot and blow out my knee and end my career. Like that's pretty sweet. I didn't have to worry about coming in too front brake heavy and tucking a wheel and you know messing something up on the bike or my body. That's pretty sweet. And I can sit down and it doesn't hurt. Like, man, that's kind of sweet. I mean, there's a ton of different things that I just find a whole mess of enjoyment on these things.
That's pretty awesome that you have that perspective. When I got to talk to Dustin Nelson, he was explaining it to me that, at the pro level on a motorcycle, you're using 6 inches of the track.
Mm-hmm. All times. Yeah.
You're hitting your line every time, perfect. And with that pro ATV, you can't ride it as hard as you want, but you can ride your bike as hard as you want, but you cannot ride your quad at max level all the time because your machine won't live
Right.
because you have 4 points of impact at all times, and the machine's just not capable to take that much pounding.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you hit it on the head when it comes to the bike. I mean, I can go do a 30-minute moto on a bike, no problem, and I don't have to change my line unless I'm getting passed or I'm passing. With the quad, you know, to a point, especially on a quad cross weekend, like, I mean, the quad sets in for a quad track opposed to a bike track, and they pack in a lot more, uh, which is another reason why I really like Loretta's, especially in 23, because it was just, I think I got stuck 4 times in practice, but uh, they set in, and yeah, you use the same lines, but like you said, you're moving quite a bit. You're always trying to find the cushion, which I think is super rad. I wish I could race a quad race all weekend and then go out there for 5 laps on my bike and just hit every swale that gets made. Oh, that would be heaven. Um, but
You're one of
yeah.
the few bike guys that I've ever heard say that after the quads go out, you want to go out.
Oh, absolutely. So, a funny story. So, back in, like, I think this was 2007, I was down in Lake Elsinore, California, and my dad and I just stayed. We were there for like a month or two straight. It was just my favorite track, so that's where we stayed. And they used to have this huge. I think it was built for the Metal Militia guys back in the day. It was almost like a freestyle motocross track. So they had these jumps that were like, I mean, they had this one jump on my 250F at the time. It was fifth gear wide open just to get to the landing. And we were out there one day, and a bunch of these quad guys showed up, and the Can-Am semi showed up, and a helicopter showed up, and the helicopter was filming all these shots. And I remember my dad and I, again, no knowledge of quads. We were just like, oh, this is neat, like whatever. And I was riding with these guys while they were doing their shots. They didn't get any shots of me or whatever, which whatever, didn't know what was going on. And that's where I fell in love with riding like a nice set in quad line is basically just two inside berms, right? So the more quad lines you have, the more berms you have. So I'd come into these, and Lake Elsinore at the time was pretty sandy, or like a really loose till sand. So I was like, holy crap, every corner's got like 9 perfect berms in it. Um, None of them were blown out, and it was only until I got into quads, I was BSing with a buddy of mine, Austin, and he's like, I was telling him that story. He's like, that sounds really familiar. And he sends me a link, and it was actually in Huevo's 11 or something like that. One of the Huevos movies, and they have a clip of me right at the end, looking off at one of the guys. I don't know. I know Wes Miller was down there, but that kind of posse at the time. They have a clip of me looking back at one of the guys hitting that very same jump I was just talking about, and Austin goes, "You have no idea how many people in the quad community saw that bike guy and just laughed because, like, in that moment, everyone realized that bike guy realized how gnarly quads could get." Um,
Right.
and when I watched the clip, I was like, "Oh my God, now I ride quads full circle. That is definitely me." And now I'm like in the other shoe, if you will, knowing how gnarly it is. Um, just funny that all these years later, I had no idea that clip existed, no idea who those guys were, no idea that movie was even a movie. It was just a weird thing that happened in my life that came full circle now so many years later.
You'll have to reach out to Wes and ask for your royalties.
No, no, no. Getting known as that bike
Nothing,
guy at the end of that clip. I don't know. I don't know.
nothing from nothing, still nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just take having my very much 3 seconds of fame at the end of that clip.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to go on with as far as the the northern racing, the quad cross racing up there, it seems to be growing. It seems to be getting a grassroots following, and more people are hearing about it. Do you think it's something that's going to continue to grow?
Absolutely. I've been doing my part the best I can to get people into quad riding. I've actually been taking a bunch of my moto buddies out and putting them on because I have a second machine, being like, all right, let's go try it, see what you think. And every single one of them has fallen in love with it. Some of those very same guys have actually gone out and got quads themselves. Um, One of them is actually even racing A1 here coming up in a couple weeks. So, it is growing slowly, I think, as everything will. You're starting to actually see YFZs in shops now, which is cool, which I didn't see when I first started. Um, one of the local shops has like three or four of them sitting in their showroom floor, and I think that's for me going in there and talking a bunch of crap that they don't have any on the floor, and me knowing the sales rep pretty well. So, and I think they've sold. I think all four of them on the floor right now are sold, just need to be picked up. And I believe they had like a fleet of 10 of them show up before those four, and those all sold as well within the last like.
Are you ready to be captivated by one of nature's masterpieces? Discover the breathtaking beauty of Antelope Slot Canyon, a natural wonder in Page, Arizona. Join us on a guided tour and immerse yourself in the mystical light beams, rich colors, and serene landscapes. With tours at prime sunbeam hours, experience photographer's paradise and capture memories that will last a lifetime. Comfortable shoes, a camera, and a smile are all you need for this adventure. Book your journey today at Antelope Slot Canyon Tours and let the canyon enchant you. Please visit us now, antelopeslotcanyon.com, for more details.
I want to say like 5 or 6 months. So they're starting to sell pretty good. I don't know where they're going to go, but at least quads are getting sold, and that's a start.
Well, there's a big aftermarket recreational community in Washington and Oregon where
Mm-hmm.
you're riding on the eastern portion of Washington, a
Yep.
little bit of Oregon on the east, but it's mostly Washington. And then you ride on the west coast down in Oregon. And we have just a huge client base that rides those areas and have been selling product to them for years and years.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got sand dunes, you got Moses Lake and stuff on the east side in Washington. Then obviously you have a whole mess of sand dunes down in Oregon. Actually, there's a quad cross stop. I don't think it's going there this year, but there's a quad cross stop that goes to Riley Ranch. And a lot of the quad guys will just take paddles because you park in the same parking lot as the sand dunes, and they'll go ride dunes. So I'm sure those quads got sold to dune riders, which breaks my heart. But it is what it is. At least they're getting sold, and that's how I look at it. The more that are sold, the more that'll come into stock. The more that come into stock, the more the shops have more access to deals, and so on and so forth. The chain continues.
Yeah, we want them to sell more ATVs. It's kind of a bummer that Yamaha is the only sport quad manufacturer right now. The other bummer is you were talking about it earlier about bringing young people in.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mid-level ATV for young people that's a good quality quad. The Raptor
No.
2, awesome, but they don't
Yep.
make.
Right. And there's actually a class. They have a Raptor class up here at Quad Cross, that is really competitive right now. Of course, the top four kids have really built ones, and they're damn near hitting everything at every track they go to. Um, but they have, I mean, Washougal, I think, had, even being a 40-person bike gate, I'm pretty sure they had like pretty close to a full gate in the Raptor class. It was, hit and miss on the talent level. There's definitely some kids that are faster than others, but just to see that many consistently is pretty cool. Because you need that. I mean, even going to the ATV nationals at the Redas, I saw a whole bunch of kids, which was great. But you really need that up here where it is so tight knit, the quad cross community. So yeah, there's a lot, and there's a lot of kids on Apexes in the DDRs, and a couple kids have hybrids. Um, there's actually one kid that has which I thought was really cool. I saw a TRX 90 with a hybrid kit in it, and I thought that was cool because I'm a Honda guy. Like all my moto stuff's on Hondas. Um, but I was like, oh, that's cool. It's different. You don't see a TRX hybrid very often. It has a YZ85 motor in it, I think, or maybe it's an RM, one of the two. But the thing just looked wicked. Like it had the hood on the front. Like, yeah, that would be when Camden gets old enough, my son, like that's the route we're going. TRX 90 with a hybrid kit in it. Full, yeah.
And they make A arms, they make shocks, they make
Mm-hmm.
stuff for those TRX 90s. They do a big, huge pit bike race,
Oh yeah.
New Jersey, with
Oh,
and they
Nick
have to be
Nick told
stopped.
me Nick told me all about it when we were at Loretta's. He's like, "Yeah, you got to get over and do the turkey derby." I'm like, "I don't know if I can just like drive 3,000 miles to go to a pit bike race." Like Carson Brown lives 35, 40 minutes from my house. Like I can go over there and get all the pit biking I need. But if I find myself on the East Coast, given the time that Nick's doing that, I will absolutely be there, and I will absolutely be trying my hardest to not hurt myself, but be out there if I can be.
Well, you just have to get a hold of Nick and rent the machine from him and
Yeah.
get straightened up.
Oh,
Yeah.
that poor little machine. I'm 6'2" and 240 pounds. If one of those has ever had a broken frame, I will be the one to break it.
Well, you are a larger than normal ATV racer.
Yeah, it's I mean, and I have to set up my quads too. My only saving grace is Chad, being tall and lanky. Um, Getting to watch him ride at Loretta's, I was like, oh, there's hope for tall guys. Because everyone else on that starting gate was just dwarfed compared to him. Um, so I was like, there's made my heart happy. I was like, there's hope. Just like in the Supercross world, there's a couple really tall guys. Benny Bloss is even taller than I am. So there's hope. I mean, he's got to put like it seems like 6-inch bar risers on, and a high seat just to look somewhat normal on a 450. But he's doing it and better than I can. So there's hope.
Well, Jaden Launderville, who's every bit as tall as Chad, will be in the pro gate next year as a rookie.
Yeah.
And he's super tall. So, and Joe Bird was tall as well.
Mm-hmm.
For a guy that came from the old school two-stroke stuff where you had to be small to make it work, and he
Right.
rode all of the two-stroke years and was just a giant, compared to most of the guys.
Yeah. It's there's definitely taller guys. I just being a taller, bigger guy, I definitely look at. I mean, could I go to the gym? Absolutely, but like how do I make the quad lighter? How do I make it react better? Um, and with the the rule coming into play of no more hybrids, I've heard that for a while. I mean, we're pretty isolated up here on the West Coast, so who knows if it'll actually happen. I'm sure you guys know if it will or not, but up here we have an open class where you're allowed to do hybrids, but nobody runs it, so it's very much production up here. So what we do is try and like how can we make these things weigh as light as possible, um, just to try and get a little bit more power to weight ratio. I'm sure, as you know, there's no way in a 30-minute moto you're going through 2.6 gallons of gas. So my buddies and I are actually, one's a welder and one's a CAD designer. We're actually going to make a tank that's a 1.4 gallon, and that difference is like 10 pounds. And 10 pounds of difference at the highest point of all your weight is huge. So that's something we're looking at right now, and just how can we how can we go faster without doing a hybrid, without spending tens of thousands of dollars on a motor because we don't need a motor. It only lasts 45 minutes, can't afford it. How can we make it better? Um,
It wouldn't necessarily be faster on a hybrid.
Me, I think I would personally, I think I'd like a hybrid more just because I know how I would put a CR F450 engine in mine because that's the power plant I'm used to on the bike. So I would probably I would probably like it more. I can definitely tell a difference. Obviously, there's a huge weight difference too, but I can definitely tell a difference in motors hopping between the bike and the quad, just the power plant itself. I would like it. Who knows? I again, I'm too big of a guy. I would probably need to do, a pretty significant amount of engine work or a hybrid or something to be able to keep up with some of my younger competitors. Plus, they're also like 10 years younger than me. But it's that conversation, God, about hybrids and what mods to do and not to do. And I'm nowhere near as knowledgeable as you are on that topic. But I mean, man, I could go on all day of the what to do's and whatnot. But personally, at 32, if something shows up at my door, an aftermarket part, I will run it all day. But with the wife and the kid and being 32, it's like I don't know if I want to pay $5,000 to make my motor only last X amount of time. The Yamaha motors already don't last forever compared to their dirt bike counterparts. So, um, it's
That's a
uh,
discussion we should be having off the taping because I want to find out what's going on with your Yamaha motor and why it's not living.
oh, it's living. It hasn't blown up yet. I think I've put a top end or two in it from 2018. It's fine. I know that if I did a bunch of work to it, it might not be. And that's only knowledge from the motocross background. We used to, like my Loretta's bike in '09, I think we would only really get like an hour and a half out of it before it would need to be like for peak performance, obviously, but before it would kind of need to be addressed and gone over. Um, and that's just kind of the same mentality I have with the quad too. Like I enjoy riding quads. I would do it every single day of the week, all day long if I could. I know that if I had a completely built pro motor in it, it couldn't last every single day, all day of the week. Um, so it's just, I mean, you're you're doing this kind of, if you will. What's beneficial versus how much you ride. I mean, I ride 3 days a week, even still. Um, in January, I try to at least. Um, and it's it's a balancing act for sure.
I would say that riding that much, unless you're a sponsored guy, a stock motor is going to do you just fine.
Yeah, yeah, and it does. Um, I'm usually right up on the podium in the pro class up here, um, and I'm totally happy with that. Uh, you know, would it help more power? Sure, I'd probably win a little bit more, but first or last, there's no way you're breaking the smile off my face. Frustrated maybe for the moment, but deep down, I'm just it's been a hoot getting into this for sure.
That's pretty awesome that you're excited about the ATV world, especially from a guy that comes from the motorcycle world. Um, when you guys are racing in the arenas,
Mhm.
so a lot people have asked me this question and I've never explored it, but I want to ask you, does the air get stagnant or do you have tuning problems because it's not ventilated properly or anything like that?
I mean, our arena up here, it's primarily a horse arena, so they do have pretty good ventilation. However, when the 65 and the 50 riders get out there and their parents don't clean out the bikes, it definitely sucks for a little bit until the fans kind of catch back up. But we're also only in there for, I mean, you can do an 8 lap moto. My wife's got videos of me from gate drop to getting off the track. The whole video is less than like 4 minutes. So
Really?
yeah, it goes by really quick. When you're out there, it feels like a half hour because I mean you're just absolutely pegged for that X amount of time that you're out there. But no, not too bad. Um, for me, I struggle really bad with if by chance I'm right after like a mini bike class where there is so many kids out there that smoke. It's just a little bit harder on my lungs, um, especially if it's really cold outside. But no, it ventilates pretty well. I know there's some indoor. venues over in like Ohio and Pennsylvania where they don't ventilate as well. But we get pretty lucky up here. The arenas that we go to are, there's nicer arenas, but the ventilation definitely keeps up.
How many indoor facilities are there?
So there used to be quite a few on the WHR series. They had Salem, Oregon, Pasco, Washington, Monroe, which is the one we're primarily at now. They have Redmond, Oregon, and then they used to also race at um, down in Puyallup, which they still race flat track at today. So there used to be quite a bit. Nowadays, it's just Monroe and Redmond. But the nice thing is that every single round in Monroe, Lee goes out and makes a new track. So you're never riding the same track or quite the same layout or anything like that. So it's always fresh and new, which is cool. Um, so that's nice. So in a sense, you're riding 8 different indoor tracks through the season, and then when you go to Redmond, that's the people that go down to Redmond, Oregon, that whole city down there. They're just off-road enthusiasts. So I mean, in 2022 when we were there, they sold the place was sold out. They sold damn near every ticket. I'm pretty sure they sold if I remember right, it was like $16,000 in ticket revenue the Friday night, and then almost got that same number the Saturday night. And we were racing quads there too. It was insane how many people showed up to that. I did 2 news interviews, because I helped promote the series. I did two news interviews as well as or live news interviews as well as a online news interview. It was crazy how many people showed up to that, and they raced bikes too, but in that series. But yeah, it was my buddies that race up here with me in Monroe. That was their first time going down there, and they actually got what I call crowd shock, where the gate. I remember talking to them after the races, and it was weird. It's like you had so many eyes looking at you. I'm like, well, that's essentially you know, welcome to indoor racing. Welcome to Supercross. Like that's how it is. And they just thought that was the coolest thing, and it was an absolute blast. And we had a lot of people coming up to us after the quad moto in the pits. A lot of spectators coming up and just saying like, "Wow, that quad racing, that's crazy." They didn't want to talk about the bikes. They didn't want to talk about the pro class. They were talking about how gnarly the quad class was. Like we were skimming the whoops they had on the quads. So I mean, you're coming in and setting up on a quad, and you're like, oh, this is going to go good. The spectators, we were staying on top of the whoops on the quads. It was absolutely nuts, and they were really, really deep that year. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, when you put ATVs in front of a crowd, they will excite the people because it's not something they get to see every day, and quads can do anything a motorcycle can do.
Yeah, yeah, with proper setup, they absolutely can. I'm trying to stay under my light here. Let's see if I can turn my truck on a little bit and get it a little brighter. Um, oh no, they absolutely can. And we've found that uh, even in, I didn't go to Bluetooth, did I?
No, you didn't. No, you did.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me just shut my truck off here. Hold on. I just messed it up.
No, I can still hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, if you can still hear me, I'll keep going then. Um, yeah, it's what I found really cool of late is a lot of the bike kids are coming up and being like, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Um, and I'm finding that really strange because I remember being a kid looking at quads, back then racing bikes, being like, oh, uh, it's like, oh, it's quads. And back then you'd go see a quad and it was like almost like it was almost like, yeah, they went and rode a quad or they went and raced a quad because they already had it, right? Or the mom wanted to get out on the track and they had a farm quad or whatever, and they just go putt around for a couple laps. And now you're seeing like especially when Kody shows up, Kody Sanford, will get voted like best race of the night. And the stand people will come and flock in from the pit area and fill the stands. And
there was last time him and I were racing there, you couldn't even get out of the track because the exit area was so full of spectators. The entrance area was so full of spectators. It was like everyone was coming down to watch him and I just absolutely go at it. And we were on quads. We weren't on bikes. So that was pretty cool, considering I think if I remember right, at that race that night, it was just him and I on quads. There was nobody else there. So yeah, it was it's a hoot. It's a hoot for sure.
And when you guys put a good show on where it's a good battle, the people love it even more.
It was a really, really good battle that night. I will leave it at that. It was, I think it was like 6 laps, and him and I changed lead positions like 4 times. And a lap is only 20 seconds, 25 seconds, maybe. I mean, it's really tight. Yeah, pretty wild.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So what do you got coming up big for yourself in 2025?
Well, the big thing for me, obviously, go race quad cross and whatnot. I want to get back to the East Coast. I know there's a group of people over here that are wanting to go race one of the nationals. I'm not sure which one yet. The big thing for me, and I've been trying to do this for a while. I like to do things a little bit different. And I see a huge, I go back to marketing here, but I see a huge hole in marketing and there's just not a lot of people doing it. So I'm like, what can I do on my quad that's fun, cool, and different? So the big thing for me in 25 is I want to get to doing like ATV. It sounds so corny, but I'm literally trying to set up right now doing an ATV versus monster truck race just for fun and for marketing. With one of my buddies that drives one of the monster trucks over on the Monster Jam series. So we'll see if that happens. But to go and get to do that, we're setting up ATV versus side-by-side race right now to go and do that to help promote one of the tracks over here. So we're trying to set that up. So the big thing for me is, racing, great. I will do it as much as I can, as often as I can. But for me personally, what's going to, kind of excite me is going and doing those different things.
Exactly. Change it up, break it up, and make it more exciting for the spectators and hopefully grow the sport.
I look back to like the MX versus ATV thing. My buddies and I have done that, obviously, because I have 1,000 kids or 1,000 buddies that ride bikes and I ride quads. So we've done that a couple times, which has been really fun. Getting photos of a bike in the air going sideways and I'm right behind them on my quad in the air at the same time. And we've done a couple MX versus side-by-side races. But it goes back to when I was a kid, like watching the intro of the video games. Right now I'm older and I can afford the toys that I was playing as video games when I was a kid. So, being able to bring that to life to me is kind of that cool thing that I want to try and do.
That's actually pretty awesome that you're doing that, and I want you to keep it up. Kody, if you could just keep me informed of what's going on up there in the north, and keep posting like you do, because I started following you and I get to see what's going on in your world. We appreciate it, and we'll do our best to make sure that everybody's informed and get it out on our side as well, because our ATV worlds don't collide. They are separate, and we need to get them to overlap and make sure that everybody in the East world knows what the West world's doing. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV-TALK Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.